So you're about to plan your first unit. You'll notice that I said unit and not lesson. So when you're thinking about a unit of study, we want you to think big picture. What do your students need to know, understand, or be able to do within the unit that you're about to teach? You'll break that unit up into individual lessons, which we'll talk about in the future. So for your unit, there's 3 words that I want to introduce to you right off the bat: learning objectives, criteria for success, and summative assessment. Your learning objectives are going to be your big overarching goals. You've already heard me say the phrase, what students should know, understand, and be able to do. After you've made a list of those things, the knows, understands, and do's, think about crafting your learning objectives based on those items. Now, how do you know what students should know, understand, or be able to do? Start with your standards. Not all of you might have a standards list to work off of, so think about competencies. What are the big things that students need to be able to walk away from this unit with? After you've looked at your standards and your competencies, you're going to frame your learning objectives. Those big overarching knows, understands, and do's. The next word I want to introduce you to is criteria for success. Your criteria for success are going to be the ways that you break down those larger learning objectives. So if you have a learning objective that looks at the end of this unit, here's what students should do. What are the piece by piece measurable things that you're going to ask of students so that you know they're progressing towards that goal? The last thing that I want to talk about at the beginning is a summative assessment. You have to know, how do I know that my kids know this? So your summative assessment is typically something that is going to occur at the end of any given unit, and it'll allow you as the teacher to see the progress that your students have made towards mastering your goals for the unit. These 3 things should really be planned together. So you can look at your unit holistically and ask yourself, what is my walkaway points? What are the things that I need to know that my students are able to show me that they're able to know, understand, and do? When we write learning objectives and criteria for success, we want to remember the acronym SMART. The S stands for specific. The M, measurable. A is attainable. R is relevant. And T is time-bound. Now let's start with the S. S is specific. When you are asking your students to show you their understanding, their learning, you want to make sure that it is something that is student-friendly and is something that a kid can clearly understand the expectations you, their teacher, has on them and what they're doing. The M is measurable. So not only is that goal specific, it's something that you can measure. It's something that you as the teacher can look at and say, here's how I know where my students are in their understanding. Here's how I can track their progress. Measurable could be something that you are providing them feedback on, something that you're assigning a grade to, something that there's a rubric associated, just something that's not intangible, something that your students very clearly know, I have done this thing, or I have not done this thing. And we are going to provide you an example in just a minute here. A means attainable. When we say attainable, it should be something that a student is able to do if they are performing at grade level expectations. Now, there might have to be some supports that you as the teacher put into place to ensure your student's success, but it should make sense that the students are being asked to do this thing. The R means relevant. Now, when we say relevance, there's 2 things that I want you to think about. Number 1, we do want it to be relevant to your students. We want them to see the value in what they're learning. This generation specifically will often ask the question, how does this relate to me? So we want to make sure that our students see value in the things that we're asking them to do. With that said, we also want you to think about relevance as something that aligns to the standards. So this is going to be really important, especially as you spend more time in a classroom. There are many activities that teachers will do around the country that they do because the students really like it. It's a really fun activity. And while we are all for fun and student engagement in a classroom, we do want you to be consistently reflecting and asking yourself, is this worth my time? Is this worth my students' time? We want to make sure that the things that we're providing our students are things that are ultimately moving them forward in their understanding of the course that they're in. So if it's something that has nothing to do with the standards, the competencies, anything that's laid out for them, you should be asking yourself, why am I doing this activity? Because again, we want it to be relevant to the students and relevant to the class that it's happening in. The last element is the T. Is it time-bound? We do want you to think about putting end dates on things, and you're telling the students, hey, here's when we need to make sure that we're ready to turn in this item, to complete this task, to showcase this understanding that we've been developing. So as you're writing those learning objectives and criteria for success, remember, your learning objectives are those big overarching goals that you're trying to get out of the unit, and the criteria for success are the individual steps that students will take to show their progress towards that goal. We want you to write them in a way that is SMART.